Hello everybody and welcome back to Air 418. I'm Shroom, your lovely host for the evening. And today I'm not bringing you any fun-filled, shenanigan-filled video games. I am bringing you a fun little story. No, not D&D. An actual story. Written by some amazing writers. The story is Bound Beyond Destiny by Edda Zella and Small Tales. Edda Zella is aka Silver, my wife, and Small Tales, her long-time childhood friend. You're probably wondering why, out of all the things I do, I am bringing you a story. Because I jump all over the place. You all know this. I've switched video games mid-playthrough, just because I felt like it. Because the ADHD is strong in me. And I love my wife's stories. And I feel like they should be heard all over in all media. So, here it is. I worked most of the day on creating this little thing. I know some of you are saying, it took you all day. Well, it took me a few hours. So I'm not as skilled as most people yet, but I'm getting there. But if you guys want to support him, website's up above for AO3. Give him some kudos, suggestions. Tell him, hey, this is a cool book. Maybe tell him, hey, this might sound cool if you do it this way. They may take into consideration, may change up their story. But without any further ado, hope you guys enjoy Bound Beyond Destiny by Edda Zella and Small Tales.
Bound by Destiny. Edda Zella. Summary. I'm terrible at these, but here we go. Prince Neos of the Angels, world is turned upside down when a prank goes sideways. Kasula the warrior elf's on the run, not wanting to join the royal guard of the elves. What happens when two hunted opposites meet? Well, lots of interesting thing from the looks of it. Notes. There is another creator on this, but she does not have an account here, so I cannot tag her, but if you like Neo's character you'll enjoy her other books. Look for Small Tales and it will most likely be her. Chapter 1. Chapter text. Chapter 1. Scholars hit hard. Kasula's POV. Kasula Racelan, you have better not be ahead of where I have told you to read, you insolent girl. Glenn warns from behind the silver-haired girl with a stern expression, crossing his arms. She coughs, ducking her head guiltily, quickly flipping the pages back to the different races. Nope. I am not, is her hasty reply as she tilts her head backwards to smile at her teacher, her braid swishing off her shoulder to hit the back of the chair. Glenn is an older human scholar that oversaw the massive tower archive of the most elite school in all the 20 kingdoms in the lands. This school held the knowledge from all the world and was ran by the High Elves, making it the most sacred place for all species. Glenn rolls his eyes while reaching out his robe, swishing, as he pushes her head back firmly to face her studies, being his youngest student by far at the youthful age of 24. Everyone else who came into his tower was at least in their 50s or older. Sighing, Kasula lays her head in her left palm and begins to read from the book, her voice sounding bored as she did not find this even slightly interesting. The blood war began due to the elven race trying to decide which race should rule their species by who was the most suited to rule. There are the Sun Elves, who have mastered the power over light and fire. They became the best smiths in all the lands, with their expertise in controlling even the smallest ray of light, making it into something deadly, or able to use it to melt metals together, creating the first welders. They brought fire to every village and town, teaching others how to build stone hearths and creating
This is the dilemma I've been having with this.
in all the lands, with their expertise in controlling even the smallest ray of light, making it into something deadly, or able to use it to melt metals together, creating the first welders. They brought fire to every village and town, teaching others how to build stone hearths and creating The Moon Elves are the healers and the best with magic. They led us into the age of medicine and hygiene, making illness almost non-existent. They hold the most precision over magic, even able to sew blood cells back together with their magic. The forest elves who keep the forests we live in flourishing and healthy. They can control everything nature, from the air, the trees, the grass and the earth. They cannot use their magic for anything besides defensive actions, though as by the laws of their own magic contract with nature. The warrior elves who are physically stronger and faster than any other elf and many other species, they have been blessed with nature magic similar to the forest elves but by the gods themselves to aid their battle prowess. They are trained from the day they can stand how to hold a weapon, and the warrior elves who are physically stronger and faster than any other elf and many other species, they have been blessed with nature magic similar to the forest elves but by the gods themselves to aid their battle prowess. They are trained from the day they can stand how to hold a weapon, and the warrior elves who are physically stronger and faster than any other elf and many other species, they have been blessed with nature magic similar to the forest elves but by the gods themselves to aid their battle prowess. They are trained from the day they can stand how to hold a weapon, and
in all technicalities they can get their hands on. They are the quickest to adapt and the most adorable of the elves.
Then finally the high elves, which hold knowledge from generations past. They are known as the most intelligent of the elves. As long as one high elf's bloodline survives, then they can see the past of that bloodline, and as the minds of the high elves are linked with magic to each other, if one
of the same bloodline will be triggered by the similar scenes the past, see through the ancestors' eyes how the past played out.
Then finally the high elves, which hold knowledge from generations past. They are known as the most intelligent of the elves. As long as one high elf's bloodline survives. Kasula glances towards Glenn, her eyes holding an unknown emotion. Finding him watch the fire with an almost sad expression, holding a think book in his hands, his knuckles white. A stance she was familiar with. It was the stance he took when she did something to remind him of her mother.
She pauses, reading the history book in her voice, soft as she looks out the tall window. Above the tree lines a golden dragon flying lazily by the trail, sweeping like a cat.
Kasula glances towards Glenn, her eyes holding an unknown emotion. Finding him watch the fire with an almost sad expression, holding. What was my mother like? You knew her from when she was a. What was my mother like? Glenn slowly turns his head. What was my mother like?
Yeah, sorry guys.
You knew her from when she was alive. My dad can't even speak her name. He just goes silent, staring into space. Glenn slowly turns his head. Strands of gray hair falling into his. Glenn slowly turns his head. Strands of gray hair falling into his green eyes. He smiles, seeing her in that pose reminded him so much of her mother, who taught him much about the elves. You are very much like her. She could never sit still, and a troublemaker to boot.
As a high elf, she was one of the most intelligent and outgoing elves I have ever known. You may not know it, but you have followed much in her footsteps. So if the reason the program I'm using keeps stopping, like the last sentence, that
Kasula hums in thought. Kasula hums in thought. She lets out a long sigh as she stands. Kasula hums in thought, her mahogany brown eyes taking in the many bookshelves, picturing her mother here roaming the shelves for something new to read like she often did, the dark walls contrasting with the light brown of the bookcases. Everything here was made by forest elves. It was a sacred
place after all. There were a few circle tables around the inside of the tower-like tree, with a single fireplace far from the books, and Magic to not be able to burn outside the hearth. Oh, to a fireplace far for the magic to not be able to burn outside the hearth.
She lets out a long sigh as she stands, noting the sun beginning to dip down towards the trees. Well, I must return home now. Thank you, Glenn. Maybe I shall see you tomorrow. Glenn's eyebrows furrow in confusion as he frowns, thinking she was going to quit her studies for some silly reason before it hits him. She is 24. She had completed her courses as of today, which was the only thing holding the warriors. Lure back, the Royal Guard. I forget your father is in it and you are a warrior elf yourself. Well, half warrior, half high elf. When will they come for you? You have been enlisted since age 16, correct? Kasula nods, closing the book with one hand, her other grabbing her bag's strap and tossing it over her head, so it rests comfortably on her shoulder. Any day. I've managed to stay off their radar for 4 years due to schooling as a high elf, but the royals are not ones to let someone get
away with Get away with not joining.
Glenn watches her load her bag with her journals and books, saying softly, "No, they are not. So, after today I may never see you again. Once recruited, no one is seen for years until they are completely loyal to their call. Which for you elves
can be decades."
Kasula stares at the book, a swirl of emotions inside at the thought of joining the guard. She trusted Glenn with her life, so she admits something she had not told anyone since the moment her name was signed on that paper by her father. I am not joining the guard. Glenn's eyes widen in fear and panic as her words sink in. Instinctively he reaches out to her, taking a step towards her before stopping himself, sensing the tension in the woman's body. You must. If you try to fight them, they will beat you senseless. They will continue.
Until you have no spirit left in you. If they cannot break you, they will just kill you in cold blood, as an example.
Glenn's eyes widen. Kasula meets his worried green eyes with hard, cold black eyes, her stance radiating an aura of someone who would never budge an inch, the tension like a red-hot blade ready to strike. Then I will die. I refuse to ever fight for a king who does nothing for his own people besides.
Besides making them suffer, even if they will mean facing my own father.
Glenn's body slumps, knowing very well that she would never change her mind on this. She was more stubborn than anyone he's ever met in his 120 years. Shaking his head, he lets out a puff of air. Well, I wish you the best of luck. Take these just in case you
need them.
Kasula's body relaxes as she smiles, taking the 3 books he had grabbed from the cart and the one she had been reading from. She slides them in her bag, the extra weight nothing to her. She appreciated the old human more than he would ever know. She gives him a hug and a peck on the cheek.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Glenn. May the gods bless you.
Glenn's face reddens, not She turns back towards him, her hand. Glenn's face reddens, not expecting such gratitude from the girl. This was something her mother had used to do and only she had ever done it till now. Kasula releases him and walks towards the door. A sense of fierce protectiveness takes over Glenn as he calls, glad no one else
beside them too. Kasula? I'm hard with the names. My apologies. Kasula. Kasula. They even said it.
She turns back towards him, her hand on the door handle, her brown cloak swaying with her sudden stop, stilling, making her seem to blend into the wall. When they come, run. Leave and don't look back. Explore the world, be free from the burdens you have here. Glenn says with a knowing look, he hated rule breakers, but this once he didn't care. He wanted this girl that had become like a granddaughter to him to
be safe and free to do as she wished.
She blinks in surprise, having not expected him. She blinks in surprise, having not expected him of all people to tell her to break the law. She wanted to question him, but he was already turning his back, and she could sense someone coming up the steps. Her eyes water as she quickly blinks before turning and leaving the room. She blinks in surprise, having not expected him of all people to tell her to break the law. She wanted to question him, but he was already turning his back, and she could sense someone coming up the steps. Her eyes water as she quickly blinks before turning and leaving the room.
A stinking feeling that she would not be able to return here again or see the old man.
She blinks in surprise, having not expected him. She practically runs down the steps and out the tower doors, not even getting a look. Seems many just ignored her presence or did not see her. She crosses the courtyard, going to the stables where the horses and other steeds are kept. The barn doors wide open. A stable girl stood at the door of one of the stables.
Sorry.
She crosses the courtyard, going to the stables where the horses and other steeds are kept. The barn doors wide open. A stable girl stood at the door of one of the stables as Kasula walks in. The huge pure black horse raises his head from the feed bucket, throwing his head back and stomping as he snorts as if saying, "Finally you're back." Kasula chuckles at his antics and pets his velvety nose before unlocking the stable door and sliding it open. "Hi Stymir, let's head home." Stymir was 3 times the size of all the other horses in the stable. He ducks his head as he walks out of the stall. His coat gleaming in the light as each step thudded against the ground. He was free of a halter and saddle. His breed was one of a kind known only
They're only able to be ridden by her bloodline or those they gifted them to.
Stymir was 3 times the size of all the other horses. Kasula reaches up with one hand and grabs his mane near his shoulders before jumping up and swinging her leg over his back. He begins running before she's even seated. The stable hand watching in envy, holding her dress down from the wind as they blew past. Kasula releases his mane, holding on with just her legs as she leans back, spreading her arms and closing her eyes facing the sky. Loving the feeling of the wind blowing back her braids, her leather armor hugging her torso, her tan pants keeping her legs safe from sliding.
Her legs from sliding off. Her cape flowing like a flag behind her. Stimmer's mane was so long it whipped against the chest and stomach. They cover the distance home in no time, winding through the streets, into the woods, and away from the city until they make it home.
Kasula only opens her eyes when Stymir stops. Slowly she opens her eyes, lowering her arms, stroking his neck. Kasula only opens her eyes when Stymir stops. Slowly she opens her eyes, lowering her arms, stroking his neck before sliding off his back. She watches him go into the field with the other horses before turning towards the house. Pulling out a book to read, she flips it open to the first page. A fist hits her in the nose before she could react, nearly making her drop the book. Quickly shutting it, she rubs her nose with one hand, hoping she did not get a nosebleed, reading the title. It was
about to be a scholar in magic. She flips it, reading the back of it to figure it out. The book was spelled so the pages would come to life, and there was a warning about the first chapter being about a scholar that loved to run around punching people. I would suck if you just open a book and BAM! Ow!
Ow. Scholars hit hard. Is this payback for the snake incident, Glenn? She mutters, shoving the book back into her bag. going up the wood steps of the porch to the little house she called home.
And that is all for now, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. What is this? Okay, why is my VTuber on the side? See what happens? There it is. There he goes. Lean like that the whole time. Huh, hopefully not. Anywho, sorry for the few times I had to interject and read. The program decided, like, I'm not gonna work properly. But that is the way of this channel. There's always some errors going on. We just learn to roll the punches and keep on going. Anywho, thank you everybody for watching. Like, subscribe to this channel, and go hit them up. Begin. And if you enjoyed the story, go give them some kudos. Tell them how much you like it. I know even one like it keeps me going. So, hope you all have a wonderful day, weekend, or midnight, wherever you are on time stream. We love you. Stay human. Bye.